Okay, every database needs a user interface. Not every user will be an expert in databases. The people who will actually be using the database won't be database designers. It's the vast majority of people who use databases are people who certainly don't understand how the technology works underneath. They just know which buttons to click on to open which screens and where to enter the data. So most people will just use the database, okay, will just use it, but they won't change the structure at all. The database designer will have created all the tables, forms and queries, so these things will already be set up, and the user will just be entering, editing and deleting the data. The user will just use those functions that have been built into the database by the designer and developer, and we're going to go on and do some of that in a minute. So what I'd like you to be able to do today is be able to, as a result of going through this screencast, is be able to create a basic form for data entry. Then you're going to extend this to move to create a simple user interface, a basic sort of home screen or main menu, depending on what you want to call it, that will allow the user to move from one form to the next. And I'll go on to explain what this means. For those people that complete that quite quickly, there is an extension. I'd like you to also create queries that you could click on from the main menu so that you can execute queries from the main menu as well. I'm going to leave that up to you. Just a few points. Key features of a good user interface. This is the important word here. An interface is the point at which two things meet. So when a computer and a human start to work together, the interface is how the human gets the computer to do the things that it wants it to do. And it's got to be easy for the user to use. The best systems have a minimum amount of training required for the user, because you hear people sort of explaining whether they think the user interface is intuitive or user-friendly. And there are definitely some apps out there, not just databases. This could be web pages, it could be your phone. There's all sorts of ones that aren't very good, and that's because they've been designed by people who might be excellent developers. They're just not very good at they're not very good at understanding how computers are used by people, because the two things don't necessarily go together. But the key features are: it should be easy to use, really important. It's got to be well laid out. There's nothing more frustrating where you find a really important feature that's hidden away on an obscure menu somewhere. All software applications do this. Of course, some person's key features aren't the same as others, but it's something that the designer's always got to think about, and there should be clear instructions. Now, maybe a well-designed interface won't need them, but that's quite unusual, and in an exam, if you're asked to do a sketch of a user interface, you would be expected to put instructions and labels on. This whole thing is a topic in itself. It's called Human Computer Interaction, or HCI. You could do a degree in it. It's a very big subject, and people spend a lot of time studying it. Okay, here is our hotel database, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a series of forms that would allow just a user, again, that's not the person who would have designed the database, but the user who would be using it in the hotel to add data into the database. So I'm going to start with the table booking over here. We've got the three tables. I'm going to create a form for that one first. I don't need to do anything over here. I'm going to go up to the Create menu, and I'm going to click Create and then Form Wizard, which is a step-by-step process that takes us through the creation of the basic form. But once it's made, it's much easier to go back in and customize it. So I'm just going to use the wizard. I'm going to add all of the fields from the table booking table in. I could get them from more than one table or query. I could choose some from elsewhere, but I'm not going to do that just now. I'm going to get rid of booking ID. I'm going to get rid of the ID field. I don't want that on the form. at this point, because it just might confuse the user. They don't need it. I'm going to click on next. I'm just going to stick with a straightforward column layout. Next, I'm going to make sure I've given it a proper user-friendly title, and this is going to be booking form, and I'm going to open the form to view or enter information, and then finish. And that's it. We've got a straightforward form, but it's all this is the same as a table, if you like, table representation. It just is laid out in a slightly more user-friendly way. But what we're going to do is we're going to customize this to add a little bit more functionality. I'm just going to close that down, and then I'm going to go into the design view of the booking form. Okay. Now this is the design view of the booking form, not a particularly user-friendly layout, but it is what it is. I'm just going to make the pages slightly wider. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a button. Now up at the top there's a button option here, so I'm going to select that, and I'm going to draw a new button in, which would say, which is going to be a form operation, and it's just going to, sorry, it's a record operation, and I'm just going to want to add a new record. So what this means is I'm going to be putting a button on the form that lets the user add a new record into the database. So I'll click next. So that's record operations and add new record. Click next, and I'm going to change the text to say add a new booking. Okay, because the user doesn't know that they're adding a new record, but they do know that they're adding a new booking. Click next. This is just a name for the button, so because you'll have lots of buttons and they'll all have different names. I'm going to leave that as Command 11 for the moment, but if you were designing this database properly, you'd think of something a little bit more sensible there. Click Finish, and now I'm going to look at the form view. Now we've got this actual button here that says Add a New Booking, and if I click on that, it gives me blanks the form out, and it gives me the opportunity to choose new names and so on, and they be added into the database. Okay, so if I added yet another new booking, it would continue to add more data in. Okay, I'm going to add a new button now. This button this time is going to also save the record once it's been put in. So it's another record operation, and this time it's a save record. So this is something that we can click on to make sure that the new data is actually put into the database. Let's click next, text, and we're going to call this save booking. We might, we might call this something like confirm booking, and then put a question mark in. Okay, and it's asking what do you want to do. Well, you want to save the record and finish. There we go. So we've got our confirm booking button. There's also another, if I click away into the space here, there's another little change I want to make, which I want to make this a pop-up form. I'll explain the difference for what that means in a minute, but if I change this to yes, it's going to make it a pop-up form. And you can see this down here are all the properties, and you can see there's dozens of properties that you can change for all sorts of things, the different objects on the form. It's all over here. So it's now a pop-up form, which when I now save and close it, if I now open my booking form up, it pops up as a separate window here. So let's, if I wanted to then add a new booking, I could then add a new booking, put the date in again. Let's just make sure this works. It's all working fine. Okay, and choose the room, and then confirm booking. Click OK in the database and add a new booking for the next one. Okay, I'd like you to now create a similar form for the other two tables in the database. You should have three. There should be a booking table, a guest table, and a room table. Actually, sorry, no, I'd only want you to create another two. We probably wouldn't need to adjust the room data because the hotel would have a fixed number of rooms, so it's unlikely that the user at this point would need to do that. So just make two forms, booking form and a guest form. Okay, now we've got our two forms set up. We've got our booking form and we've got our guest form. You should have the two there. Let's close those down. We're going to make the main home page or home window, or the main menu, probably better, that we can use to then open the other forms up from. So this time we're going to create a blank form, and I'm going to go into its design view, and I'm going to start by, well, just making that slightly bigger, and let's say we're going to have a label at the top which tells us this is the main menu. Okay, so, and we're going to give the user some instructions. Please click on the button that you would will take you to the form you need. Okay, we can change the format of this as well in a bit, but we're not going to do that right now, but it's something that you could do later on. So for example, you can change the fill colors and so on, fonts and that sort of thing. I'll let you do all that when we've got the actual form built. You can customize that later, but for now we're just going to get the form, get the form built. So we're going to get the first button in, which is going to open a form, form operations, open a form, and it's just going to open the booking form for us. Open form, show all records. Okay, and it's going to, on the button, it's going to say open booking. We might say open booking screen. Okay, finish. Let's just take a look at that in the form view. Open booking screen. Oh, and it works. So our booking form has opened. So we might change that. I'll leave that up to you. But you do have to consider when you're designing forms, and you may in the exam be asked to design, just to design the look of a form, that things like this are consistent and make sense. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the design view, and I'm going to make this one. I'm going to make this one a pop-up as well. So I've just made that a pop-up, and I'm also going to add the next button, which is going to be our another form opening button. So we've got the booking form opening, we now need to open the guest form. Okay, next, open guest screen. Now hopefully you can start to begin to see how you can extend this further and further, and you could have more buttons here that will do more and more things. So the buttons might be doing things like asking if you'd like to find somebody's information in the database. I'm going to let you try and figure that out yourself as an extension task once you've got these things built. So how can you extend this user interface to make it more user friendly? And let's just check to see what we've got. There we go. Now you can see it popped up. It's a popped out screen, and we're going to go to open the booking screen there, and there it is. Now once the booking screen's opened, what button do you think we might need to add? Well, I think it would be good practice to add a button here that takes us back to the main screen, the main menu. So you would need to go into the design view of this window, close that one down, save the changes of course. I'm going to call it main. Okay, so we've got the booking form, guest form and main. So into the booking form here, I can add the button that will take us form operation, open a form, next, and take us to the main. Okay, open main menu. So I'd like you to complete the forms, I'd like you to customize them, and I'd like you to make sure that we've got working buttons that will allow us to move between the forms and the main menu.